Hello everyone. So I'll be talking about labor. Labor is divided into four stages, and I'll first give a brief about the stages and then talk about the detail. So stage 1 consists of two very important things, that is cervical dilation and cervical effacement. This denotes the onset of labor. So here, what happens in stage one is there are when you say onset of labor, it means there are regular and rhythmic contractions, and initially they'll occur every 10 minutes, but later on they occur every 2 to 3 minutes. And there are two parts or two phases for stage one, that is a latent phase and active phase, details which I will be telling in a minute. And stage one begins with the onset of labor and ends at 10 centimeter dilated cervix, that is a complete full cervical dilation. Alright, so stage 1 consists, it's from the onset of labor. It consists of two important things, that is cervical dilation and cervical effacement. Effacement basically means a shortening of the cervix, and it is characterized by regular rhythmic contractions. Stage 2 consists of expulsion of the fetus. In stage 2, the contractions are more frequent every 2 to 3 minutes, and a contraction is said to be adequate when it is more than 200 Montevideo units, that is adequate contractions. And stage 2 is when the mother bears down, that is stage 2. And stage 3 is basically the stage of expulsion of the placenta, which takes around 30 minutes. And there is also a stage 4, and stage 4 is basically looking at the status of the mother and to make sure that there isn't postpartum hemorrhage, so that's control of mother's well-being. Coming to a little more in detail about the stages, stage 1 has two parts, the latent phase and the active phase. The features of the latent phase is it begins with the onset of labor up to 6 centimeter dilation of the cervix, and the rate of the cervical dilation is just about 1 centimeter per hour or less. So it's not a very fast phase, it's a very slow phase. And we have a few cutoffs for this phase, that is in primi it should be less than 20 hours, and in a multigravida it should be less than 14 hours. All right. After the cervix reaches 6 centimeter dilation, the rate at which the cervical dilation occurs becomes a little more faster, and that is when the patient gets into the active phase. So active phase starts with 6 centimeter dilation of cervix and ends at 10 centimeters. 10 centimeters is considered completely dilated cervix. So it ends at complete dilation. The rate here is 1 to 2 centimeter per hour, so it's a faster rate. So the time duration for this, the cutoffs are 4 to 6 hours for a primi and 2 to 3 hours for a multi. That makes sense because 6 centimeter up to 10 centimeters 4 centimeters, so it's 1 to 2 centimeters per hour. The minimum should be around 4 hours for a primi, but it'll be faster for a multi. So these are the two phases for this complete stage 1, and clinical features in stage 1 consists of cervical effacement and dilation. Those are the two most important things. There may be a bloody show, and that's because the cervical plug gets dislodged, and that can come as a bloody show. And this is a stage where you have a spontaneous rupture of membranes. Okay. And what all are the things that we have to do for the patient in stage 1? So analgesia, only if the mother requires analgesia, it can be given. The fetal heart rate has to be monitored. We have to keep monitoring the fetal position to make sure that the fetal position is descending and coming down. So that's from station 0, it will come up to station +1, +2, +3, and so on. And we have to do cervical examinations to check the fetal position, the cervical dilation, and effacement. Alright, after stage 1, you have stage 2, which starts from a fully dilated cervix at 10 centimeters up to the birth of the baby. And the cutoffs are 2 hours in case of primi, and you add 1 hour if epidural anesthesia is given, and 1 hour for a multi, and that's one more extra hour in case of epidural. The clinical features in stage 2 is that the cervix will be fully dilated at 10 centimeters. The uterine contractions keep increasing, and a good contraction should be more than 200 Montevideo units. And this is where the fetal head crowns and it gets engaged into the pelvis. Okay. Now, the management of stage 2 is now episiotomy is currently not recommended. Episiotomy was actually done to prevent lacerations and by actually producing a controlled laceration, but now it's not done. Then this is the stage where the mother pushes or bears down, and after the delivery of the fetus you do something called delayed cord clamping, and that is when you clamp the cord around 1 minute after the delivery. Right. Now, after stage 2, stage 3, which consists of birth of the fetus until the expulsion of the placenta, and this takes around 30 minutes. At this stage 3, you have uterine contractions, but these are a bit irregular. They're not the regular labor contractions. These are a few regular uterine contractions. And whenever you start, when do you know when to start to pull the cord is when you see signs of cord separation, like for example lengthening of the cord, you see a gush of bright red blood, and the fundal rebound. That means the fundus becomes a little more spherical as the placenta separates. Alright, so when you see these three things, this means that the cord has separated, and then you can start pulling the cord out. And this is really important. In stage 3, the management that you do in stage 3, it's called active management of third stage of labor, and this is to prevent postpartum hemorrhage. It has three main important points. One is giving oxytocin. Oxytocin causes uterine myometrial contractions. These contractions can actually clamp the vessels in the myometrium and prevent excess bleeding. Then fundal massage and controlled cord traction. So these are three components of AMTSL, very important to prevent PPH. And then you have to examine the placenta to make sure that it's complete, and you have to count the number of cotyledons and make sure it's complete. Otherwise, there may be a retained cotyledon or retained placenta which can later lead to postpartum hemorrhage. And so you have to examine the placenta completely, and any lacerations have to be repaired at this stage. Finally, stage 4 consists of the 2 hours postpartum, where you're basically looking at the mother, making sure she's okay, making sure there is no postpartum hemorrhage or any pain, so keeping the mother comfortable and safe. So that is stage 4. So that is about the stages of. So now that we're done with the discussion of normal labor, let us look at the abnormal labor. Abnormal labor there are disorders of the latent phase, active phase, then the second stage and the third stage. So coming to prolonged latent phase is a part of the stage 1. We say latent phase is prolonged if it takes more than 20 hours in a primi and more than 14 hours in a multi. Now, you should realize that latent phase is normally a very long phase and it can go on for hours, and it's not very problematic, but it can become quite physically and emotionally exhausting for the mother. So in such cases, it's important to provide support, comfort measures to the mother, good hydration, and to basically reassure her that it is normal to have such a long latent phase. And it's usually seen that those people who start off the onset of labor with a favorable cervix means a Bishop's score is more than equal to 6. Those people generally seem to have a shorter latent phase. Alright, so as I've written, latent phase is managed with rest, analgesia, and hydration. Coming to disorders of the active phase disorders can be categorized as protracted active phase and arrest of the active phase. A protracted active phase is that the active phase is going much too slow. So the cervical dilatation is less than 1 to 2 centimeter per hour over a period of 2 hours. So now the protracted active phase can be either with or without inadequate contractions. And if it is because of inadequate contractions, you can give oxytocin, and you can also try amniotomy. Now, amniotomy is basically uh, you're actually causing a rupture of membrane, but you have to make sure that the head has descended well and is well applied to the cervix before you do an amniotomy, because otherwise it can result in a risk of cord prolapse. So that has to be kept in mind when you do amniotomy. So the two management strategies for protracted active phase is oxytocin if the contractions are slow, and amniotomy. All right. Next, we come to arrest of active phase. Arrest of active phase is when there has been no cervical change for more than 4 hours with adequate contractions. Adequate contractions means more than 200 Montevideo units, or there is no cervical change for more than 6 hours but with inadequate contractions. So the patient's contractions are not good. You have given them oxytocin, and after 6 hours there has been no cervical change. That is an arrest. And management of arrest is cesarean, because when there is arrest, it means that the fetus is not really moving down. So that's mostly because of a very small pelvic cavity or a cephalopelvic disproportion. So there is no point in trying to get a vaginal delivery. So we'll go for cesarean delivery for arrest of active phase. Now, what are the a few causes of these protracted phases or protracted labor? So, causes of protracted labor, you have uterine factors, there are pelvic factors, and there are fetal factors. Uterine factors are that the uterus is just hypocontrile, and contractile means it's not, the contractions are inadequate. That is the most common cause of a protracted labor. Other causes are an older maternal age, uterine abnormalities, obesity in the mother, neuraxial anesthesia. This is not completely understood if it actually causes protracted labor, but some studies have shown that it does prolong labor, and nulliparity. Pelvic factors are a contracted pelvis and a short stature, and fetal factors are cephalopelvic disproportion and fetal macrosomia. So these are the causes of a protracted labor. And what is the harm of protracted labor to the mother? One is the risk of chorioamnionitis, then the risk of unassisted vaginal birth. So that means the use of forceps and vacuum, and there are a lot of harm that can happen, risk factors with the use of forceps and vacuum. Then increased rates of cesarean sections, risk for postpartum hemorrhage, and infection like endometritis. All right. So that is those are the disorders that you see in the active phase of labor. And in fact, one note here is that a protraction or arrest of labor is the most common cause for a cesarean section. All right. Next, we come to a prolonged second stage of labor. Second stage of labor basically starts with a completely dilated cervix, 10 centimeter cervix, and ends with the delivery of the baby. Now, a prolonged second stage, what we usually see in second stage is that most patients who go on to deliver vaginally would have done so after 60 to 90 minutes of pushing in the second stage. Now, an arrest of fetal descent or a prolonged second stage again can happen due to the three P's, that is the passage, the passenger, or the power. These are similar to the factors that we discussed here. Now, when you assess a patient, if there is, like, in 16 to 90 minutes of pushing and the patient has not delivered yet, if there is a fetal descent of more than 1 centimeter in that 60 to 90 minutes, or if you find that the fetus head position has rotated from an initial unfavorable position to an occipito-anterior position, then you can safely continue supportive care as long as the fetal heart rate is reassuring and you can wait for a vaginal birth. But if the descent is minimal, that is less than 1 centimeter in 60 to 90 minutes, and the uterus is not contracting enough, then you can try giving oxytocin. Alright. So as I've mentioned here, oxytocin can be given if the contractions are inadequate. Now, suppose you find that the contractions are inadequate. You have given oxytocin, but still there is there is not much of a fetal descent, there is no progression of the second stage, then your next steps in management will depend on the fetal station. So if the fetus is above +1, meaning the head is not engaged, then your plan would be to do a cesarean delivery. If the fetus head is below +1, meaning it is engaged and the contractions are adequate, then you'll go for forceps or vacuum delivery. You have to make sure that when you do forceps or vacuum, the contractions are adequate. Alright, so this is the management for a prolonged second stage of labor. And definition wise, you call it a prolonged second stage of labor if the second stage has lasted for more than 3 hours in a primary and 4 hours if it is with epidural, more than 2 hours in a multi, and 3 hours if it is with an epidural. So that is just for the definition's sake. But basically, your management is, as I've mentioned, based on the fetal station and based on the contractions, whether you have to give oxytocin or not. Now, second stage of labor, what are the risks related to a prolonged second stage of labor? First is that if the second stage has been allowed to go on for quite some time and the fetal head gets trapped very deep in the pelvis, and you realize that later on that it may be required to do a cesarean section, probably because of a small pelvis or cephalopelvic disproportion where you can't really do any vaginal delivery, in that case it's going to be hard to do a cesarean section with the head that is so deep within the pelvis. Second is, it can the prolonged stage can lead to thinning of the lower uterine segment, and this can also have a risk of damaging the uterine vessels while doing a cesarean section. And a prolonged second stage can increase the risk for postpartum hemorrhage and infection. Alright, this is prolonged second stage of labor. Now, coming to problems that are associated with the third stage of labor. Third stage of labor basically talks about third stage basically talks about the expulsion of the placenta, and it usually should last for around 30 minutes. Now, a major problem that is associated with third stage of labor is a retained placenta. A retained placenta is a delivery of placenta. Now, usually a retained placenta could happen if the delivery of placenta happened without the usual use of oxytocin or AMTSL. The risk for a retained placenta increases. There are three types of retained placenta. So one is a trapped placenta. Trapped placenta is basically when the cervix has closed or beginning to close and the placenta is literally just trapped inside the uterus. It has what do you say, separated from the myometrium, but it is still within the uterus because the cervix is closed. The second is placenta adherence, where the placenta is adhered to the uterus, but you can separate it with a manual extraction. And the third is the placenta accreta spectrum. So accreta spectrum is basically when the uterine decidua is missing and the placenta literally gets attached to the myometrium. So in these cases, how will you manage? So in most cases of a prolonged third stage of labor, if you just do a control cord traction, eventually the placenta will come out. Control cord traction means it's called the Brandt-Andrews maneuver. It means one hand is on the fundus. You'll keep the hand there to prevent the uterus from inversion and to keep the uterus in position. And the other hand actually exerts this downward traction parallel to the birth canal's direction, and it's like a controlled, sustained downward traction. So that's control cord traction. Then suppose it is because, so that's usually helpful to get the placenta out. But if you find that the lower uterine segment of the cervix is contracted a lot, as seen in a trapped placenta, in those cases you could try using nitroglycerin. Nitroglycerin will relax the smooth muscle of the myometrium and the cervix and facilitate the delivery of the placenta. Now, suppose that also does not work, your next management would be a manual extraction. of the placenta. In that, what you do is one hand will go along the umbilical cord, the vagina, and the cervix, and the lower uterine segment, and basically will get into the uterus to find that maternal placental interface or the plane. And the other hand is always at the uterine fundus to keep the uterus in position. Now, once your hand has found that maternal placental interface, that the placenta is gently dissected using a swish side to side movement of the hand, and that basically separates the placenta from the uterine endometrium. And finally, if it is an accreta spectrum is when you can't find that plane and you're not able to manually remove the placenta from the uterine lining, then that is most likely to be an accreta. And for an accreta, the management is basically just hysterectomy. All right. So that's about how you manage the third stage of labor. So today in this, so we basically went through the phases of normal labor, and then we also went through the abnormal labor and how to manage each of those phases. So that's about it. Thank you. I hope you enjoyed the video.